One of the things I'd like to ask the Biden administration, as you probably heard, there are two events that took place. We're talking about a friendly takeover, a friendly transition, as they like to say. This is a friendly transition, and it is, but there are two events that took place that I think are very terrible. One is that if people don't come back to work, come back into the office, they're going to be dismissed. And somebody in the Biden administration gave a 5-year waiver of that so that for 5 years, people don't have to come back into the office. It involved 49,000 people. For 5 years, they don't have to go. They just signed this thing. It's ridiculous. So it was like a gift to a union, and we're going to obviously be in court to stop it. The other thing is really terrible. We spent a tremendous amount of money on building the wall. The wall was designed specifically by the Border Patrol because it's very hard to climb. They need to have see-through. They need it to be steel because you can't cut. It's very powerful steel. It's very hard steel. As you see, they're trying to sell it for 5 cents on the dollar. And that's really, that has nothing to do with a smooth transition. That has to do with people really trying to stop our nation. And all it means really is that we're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars more, not even talking about the time. Time would be pretty long, but we'll spend hundreds of millions of dollars more on building the same wall that we already have. And people have already come back to us that have deals at 5 cents and 4 cents, and one guy at 3 cents on the dollar, and they offered to sell it back to us at more money than it costs us to build substantially. Can you believe it? So they make a deal with the United States to buy it for pennies, and then they call us and they say, do you want to buy it back? We'll sell it back to you for hundreds of dollars a foot. Hundreds of dollars, from pennies to hundreds of dollars a foot. And we can't let this take place.
All right, guys. So as promised in my last video about Joe Biden giving the Presidential Medal of Freedom to Liz Cheney, which has essentially turned that medal, that award, into a TDS award, right? I mean, he quite literally gave Liz Cheney the award for having Trump derangement. Joe Biden is making more moves to try to undermine President Trump. And at this point, I'm about to start calling Joe Biden Ho Biden, because this is some ho shit that Joe Biden is doing to the president-elect. Okay, he's going out of his way to try to undermine Trump in every way that he can. It's sad. It really is. And again, I don't know whether or not to blame Joe Biden or what, because Joe Biden is an empty suit. He's an empty head. He's not the one calling the shots, okay? Joe Biden's Trump deranged advisors are probably the people that are telling him what to do, okay? So I don't know. All I know is that this has to stop, right? He cannot continue to try to undermine the president. The last couple of stories that we talked about included Biden trying to work out a deal with the unions in order to prevent federal workers from coming back to work. Okay, we have a bunch of empty buildings that we're paying rent for that nobody is working in because of the fact that a lot of government workers are now working remotely. And the president, the incoming president, President Trump, says, no, we want the federal workers to come back to work, right? We want them to come to work in person. We want to use this office space. And Biden went out of his way to try to prevent that from happening, to make it harder for Trump to require federal workers to come back to the office. Biden also has started selling the border wall, right? Selling parts of the border wall that haven't been used yet to build the wall itself. They've been selling them to companies for cheap. And now these private companies have been offering back the border wall to the Trump team for more money than what the wall was originally purchased for by the Trump administration when they first started the border wall. Insane stuff. And thank God a judge did the right thing and stepped in the way of Joe Biden selling the border wall, blocking him for doing so until Trump gets back into office. Take a look.
Major crucial win for America. That's what President-elect Trump is calling a ruling that blocks the Biden administration from selling border wall materials. In a Truth Social post, the president-elect said the judge also ordered an investigation into how those materials were even put up for sale. News Nation's Xavier Walton has more from Dallas this morning. And Xavier, I think that's the question, right? I think a lot of people are wondering how these border materials can even be sold in the first place. What'd you find?
Hey, Mark, well, I guess you could say, anything can be bought and sold online, or at least you thought it could until this. I mean, you got to remember this too. Texas, the state of Texas has said it is going to help the Trump administration coming in any way, shape, or form possible when it comes to these mass deportation efforts starting day one. This is one of those ways, right? But let's get to a statement from a Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton. He is calling this a success, saying in part, we have successfully blocked the Biden administration from disposing of any further border wall materials before President Trump takes office on January 20th. The Biden administration agreeing to an order from the courts preventing his administration from selling any further border wall materials over the next 30 days. For context, you know what? This back and forth really has over border wall materials has been going on for years. In 2023, Congress ordered the Department of Defense to sell remaining border wall materials. Some materials went to border states like, say, Arizona, federal agencies as well. Texas officials say, others were sold to a private auction company, govplanet.com. You're seeing this video here. But for pennies on the dollar, that's something President-elect Donald Trump obviously talked about. Fast forward to this December, just a couple of weeks ago, Paxton filed a motion to stop the Biden administration from selling any more border wall material. Following the court's decision, the Biden administration agreed to stop for the next 30 days. So Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, he has been all over this, posting on X, saying in part, this is a huge win for Donald Trump and Texas. The border wall that Joe Biden was attempting to auction off for pennies on the dollar in secret has been stopped. Meantime, President-elect Trump reportedly expected to issue an executive order freeing up funds to restart building the border wall again, potentially on day one when he is back in office, January 20th, Marky.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Biden got blocked by this judge from undermining Trump. And lo and behold, he's trying again. This time in one of the worst ways that you can think of, because now he's coming for Trump's energy agenda, which is a major part of what the Trump administration wants to do in his second term.
If America is going to dominate the world in manufacturing once again, as it did when I was running things, you remember when they used to say you can't have manufacturing jobs in our country anymore? I said, really, why? And we created hundreds of thousands of them. But we must be the most affordable energy and electricity place anywhere on the planet. We have to have affordable energy. Right now we have energy that's weak, substandard, and unaffordable. It's made by the wind. The windmills rust, they rot, they kill the birds. It's the most expensive energy there is. And we have other things that are also no good. It's called the Green New Deal. I call it the Green New Hoax. One of the reasons manufacturing jobs were flooding back into the United States when I was president was that we dramatically reduced energy costs. Sadly, crooked Joe Biden sacrificed this tremendous economic advantage on the altar of the Green New Deal, perhaps because he was bribed by Communist China or because Communist China knows all of the money that they've paid him. We have a Manchurian candidate. That's what he is. He's a Manchurian candidate. They know everything about him, and he's scared stiff. He won't do a thing. I take in hundreds of billions of dollars from China, and Joe Biden's afraid to even talk to him. Biden's war on American energy has sent prices soaring, and his latest actions will make it catastrophically worse. It's going to be bad at a level that we've never seen. This will be so bad. Under Biden's newly proposed power plant regulations, most natural gas and coal plants will be forced to shut down. By the way, they tried that in Germany, and now they're going back and building coal plants all over the place because they've destroyed Germany. They have no energy. So Germany now is building a coal plant every 2 weeks. And China is building a coal plant every week, every single week. They're putting up a new coal plant. And we're playing games with the wind. This is terrible what's happening to our country.
Let's bring in Trump economic advisor Stephen Moore, co-founder of the Committee to Unleash Prosperity. Steve, thank you for being here. Appreciate your time.
Jackie, great to be with you. I hope you had a Merry Christmas.
You as well. So what do you think is going to have the most immediate impact? I mean, there are so many things that the president-elect has said he wants to do on day one as it relates to undoing Biden's green agenda. But what do you think people are going to feel first?
Well, I think actually, Jackie, the most important thing is now the energy industry, especially our oil and gas producers, are going to realize that they're not facing an enemy in the White House. This is somebody who is pro-American energy production, and that really couldn't be said about the Biden administration. Let's not forget the first thing, Jackie, I know you remember this, the first thing that Joe Biden did when he became president was kill a vital pipeline that we needed, the Keystone. Trump is going to be pro-energy production. We're going to, I think another big key ingredient to increasing our oil output is more permitting on federal lands. And I'm not talking about, Yosemite or Yellowstone or our national parks. I'm talking about non-environmentally sensitive lands where we have, decades and maybe even centuries worth of oil and gas reserves that we could be pumping. So it's a whole change in attitude. And I love what you guys were just saying, that we should use everything we've got. It's a sort of all of the above energy strategy. And that could, Jackie, think about this. If we do it right, we could be talking about $1.99 a gallon of gasoline. Wouldn't that be nice?
And Biden is going out of his way to make sure that doesn't happen because he does not care about the American people. He does not care about you paying less for gas. He's actually trying to make sure that you continue to pay more for gas, okay? That the U.S. remains dependent on everybody else for oil and gas across the world, right? Because he is expected to permanently ban some offshore drilling, a move that would complicate Trump's push to expand domestic energy, right? So Biden quite literally is so salty that he's trying to block a key part of Trump's economic agenda just so that Trump's presidency can be bad, right? So that Trump can't fulfill his promises, okay? He tried to solve the wall so that Trump will have to pay more money to build a wall, or that he couldn't build a wall as fast and as efficiently as he plans on doing, okay? Because we need that wall to be finished ASAP, okay? And I believe that Trump is serious about getting it done. I mean, Biden knows, again, which is why he tried to kneecap Trump. He tried to kneecap Trump when it comes to federal employees coming back into the office. And now he's trying to kneecap Trump on domestic energy production. Again, this is a whole move, okay? That's what's happening right now with Joe Biden. So let's read here. President Joe Biden is preparing to issue a decree permanently banning new offshore oil and gas development in some U.S. coastal waters, locking in difficult-to-revoke protections for sensitive marine areas during his final weeks in the White House. Biden is set within days to issue the executive order barring the sale of new drilling rights in portions of the country's outer continental shelf, according to people familiar with the effort who asked not to be named because the decision isn't public. The move is certain to complicate President-elect Donald Trump's ambitions to drive more domestic energy production. Unlike other executive actions that can be easily undone, Biden's planned declaration is rooted in a 72-year-old law that gives the White House wide discretion to permanently protect U.S. waters from oil and gas leasing without explicitly empowering presidents to revoke the designations. Yeah, so this is not like other executive orders that are essentially band-aids, okay? These executive orders are actually backed up by the law, which basically has granted the president explicit powers to ban offshore drilling if he sees fit. So it's not like another president can come in and say, nah, we're going to rip this Band-Aid off. Okay, we're not doing this. No. I believe it would take an act of Congress to undo this, okay, to overturn what Biden is trying to do, which would make it harder for Trump to expand his domestic energy production policy. The move responds to pressure from congressional Democrats and environmental groups who have lobbied Biden to, quote, maximize permanent protections against offshore drilling, arguing the action is essential to safeguard vulnerable coastal communities, protect marine ecosystems from oil spills, and fight climate change. White House and Interior Department officials didn't immediately respond to requests for comment. Biden administration officials have been considering their approach for more than 2 years, though their efforts intensified after Trump's victory as the outgoing president sought to enshrine new environmental measures before the end of his term. The fresh offshore protections are in line with similar recent Biden actions to protect areas from industrial mining and energy development, including a formal proposal issued December 30th to thwart the sale of new oil, gas, and geothermal leases in Nevada's Ruby Mountains. Biden has prioritized conservation while in office and is already on track to protect more U.S. lands and waters than any other president, even as he faces mounting calls to expand that record with new national monuments safeguarding culturally significant land in California. The full scope of Biden's coming offshore protections wasn't clear until early January 2nd, but the protected areas include waters considered crucial to coastal resilience, and the designation is designed to be targeted, said people familiar with the decision. Although congressional Democrats and scores of environmental groups had urged Biden to make a more sweeping designation, recent deliberations have focused on parts of the Pacific Ocean near California and eastern Gulf of Mexico waters by Florida. Trump is expected to order a reversal of the protections, but it is not clear he will be successful. Yeah, so during Trump's first term, he sought to revoke President Obama's orders to protect some of this land from drilling and things like that, and it was rejected by the court. Okay, so when you end up having some of these presidents put in these executive orders before the next president comes into office, and is backed up by law, what happens is that it makes it difficult for the incoming president to carry out his agenda. Now, everybody is not on board with the climate agenda, right? That the Democrats are on board with. And some people believe that drilling is necessary, right? We should continue to produce energy to pump oil out of the ground and to grow our economy. However, again, Trump is going to have his hands tied doing that because the Biden administration is going out of their way to try to block Trump from doing so. I just find it to be fascinating how Congress essentially passed a law allowing the president to do something, but it doesn't allow a president to undo what the president did, right? As if, I don't know, opinions don't change in regards to whether or not certain pieces of land should be used to drill and to provide energy for the people. Okay, so what you have here again is Democrats and Biden. They're so mad, they're so upset that they lost, that they're trying to go out of their way to make sure that the next Trump administration is not successful. Okay, to make sure that they can't fulfill their promises. It is really kind of messed up, right? It is sick what the Democrats and Biden are doing before Trump gets into office. I mean, this shit should be damn near illegal if you ask me. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.